morning and welcome to Rising. We have just a fantastic show for you today. I'm excited to get right to it. Joined, of course, by Lindsey Granger. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you had your caffeine chocolate bar this morning, and I didn't, and so I feel like I gotta make sure.
Was I too sleepy yesterday?
Yeah, honestly, and the
People
audience
were saying
can tell
I was
me
sleeping.
you were giving me like a solid.
I was letting you talk for change.
They were like 9 minutes ago. I'm like, wow, Robby's just relaxed about all topics today. I couldn't believe it. But we did good, I think. The audience should be good. Tell me what's on your radar.
All right, let's get to it. Who is the new leader of the Democratic Party? Well, that's a question we've been asking quite frequently on Rising because it's clear the Democratic Party's base is really unhappy with leadership. It's also clear that President Trump and the Republicans feel like they face very little meaningful opposition right now and can just do whatever they want. I don't know if the subject of this radar is going to be the leader of the Democratic Party, but she is certainly an up-and-coming person of notability, a personality of notability. But is she really ready for prime time? I'm talking, of course, about Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas, a fiery progressive who has attracted significant media attention in the last, say, 6 months. It is also the subject of a new profile in Atlantic magazine. The Atlantic's Elaine Godfrey interviewed the Congresswoman and several of her colleagues. Now, what's drawn the profile to my attention, and as was the conversation about it on social media, it seems Crockett apparently doesn't quite understand how journalism works, because in the profile, there's this following passage. I'm quoting from it. Crockett said that people are free to disagree with her communication style, but that she was elected to speak up for the people that I represent. As for her colleagues, 4 days before this story was published, Crockett called me to express frustration that I had reached out to so many House members without telling her first. She told me, shutting down the profile and revoking all permissions. That's funny because you can't do that. Sorry, this is like one of the most basic rules of dealing with journalists. Sorry. Once you've spoken to them on the record, you don't own the story anymore. They do. You can't stop them from covering you because you don't like that they reached out to other people. You have to decline to talk to them in the first place or set the terms in advance. As NBC's Sahil Kapoor put it, this is not how any of this works, but don't, of course, try to tell Jasmine Crockett any of that. She is bursting with self-confidence, according to this profile. In fact, she seems pretty unhappy. She was passed over for a top leadership position, chair of the House Oversight Committee. The profile recounts her personal feelings of betrayal that her own caucus, the Congressional Black Caucus, backed a different person. You see, Crockett believes she's the most qualified person for the job because, and I quote, there's one clear person in the race that has the largest social media following. Generating attention, positive and also negative, is something she's quite good at, obviously. Is it really the case, however, that being provocative, spicy, contrarian, unfiltered, attention-seeking, and let's be honest, fairly bombastic and occasionally offensive, is that the best set of attributes for Democratic leadership? Who knows? Maybe it is. Certainly the Democratic base wants leaders to fight the Republicans, if only in virtue-signaling sort of ways that have nothing to do with actual power and policy. At least Crockett was willing to do this.
If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad-built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold on.
I'm trying to find clarification on what qualifies.
Chairman, motion to strike those words.
I had no idea what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just said
You just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to talk about it.
Voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at calm down.
No, because this is what
like
y'all
to get
do.
through proceedings.
So I'm trying to get
Miss
clarification.
Crockett, you're not
Y'all wanna
recognized.
play
Miss
games?
I can't hear
Crockett.
you with your yelling.
Vote for Democrats. They want to turn Congress into Real Housewives or some MTV reality show. I guess that's the pitch. But in an era in which excessive clout chasing has infected both parties, and in which the leaders of both political factions have more interest in making memes and manufacturing media moments than they do in actual legislation, perhaps Jasmine Crockett is the leader the Democrats deserve. Just as Trump is the id of the right, she might be the id of the left.
I really cannot believe that you are saying the decorum that is not shown by Jasmine Crockett is something that disturbs you when you specifically rally for President Trump and that poor decorum that he has as the standard of the party, and also showed that clip and didn't remind folks that Marjorie Taylor Greene started with Jasmine Crockett with poor behavior, not conducive to a congressional seat behavior, making fun of her eyelashes like a child. So this is very much the attitude of the right. And so for people on the left to be excited that somebody else is meeting them and not going higher, like Michelle Obama, going into the ground where a lot of people were at and are celebrated on the right, this should be something that can also be celebrated on the left. It doesn't mean she's the only person in the party. You're hearing conversations about Mamdani. You're hearing conversations about her. You still have people like AOC. You still have Bernie Sanders. You still have Pete Buttigieg, who's very vocal. So this Democratic Party can be a lot of things.
Bernie and AOC in that Atlantic profile.
And she rightfully can, but that's the point. The Democrats should not be figuring this out this late in the game is my biggest criticism. But Jasmine Crockett is obviously somebody who can speak to all the things that are relevant for the Democratic Party. She's young, she's outspoken, she's meeting Trump exactly where he's at, and she also is a trained lawyer. She's smart. She's worked in state politics in Texas. She represents the diversity of Texas that sometimes is overlooked. She's effective. This is not her first job. It's not like she's just some kid that was popular on social media that doesn't deserve an opportunity like this. She's more than qualified for these positions.
I think if Marjorie Taylor Greene said that she should be the leader or one of the leaders of the Republican congressional delegation because she is the best known personality, provocative personality on social media, I bet major mainstream media, liberal Democratic people would criticize her for that. That is the same argument Jasmine Crockett is making. She says, I deserve this job, not because I'm so qualified, not because I'm an attorney, not because of whatever my sterling legal background, but because I have more clout. That is the Democratic Party, I think, embracing and then some, whatever the Trump phenomenon. It's not really clout, it's because it's a genuine affection from millions and millions of people.
There are more than 500 people in Congress that are fighting for airtime, whether it's on podcasts because they understand that that's the way to connect with young people, whether it's on cable news because they understand that's the way to connect with older people. There are people clamoring for time. Jasmine Crockett can say something, put a post out on X, go on any outlet because they're asking her multiple times as opposed to her trying to ask them and get a message out. That's effective communication, especially in a new media age that you argue is more prevalent than old media. So Jasmine Crockett is the exact person that can reach those young voters because you talked about how they were isolated. She is doing exactly what you want. You are arguing both sides of this issue, and I don't like you, Robin, because you love new media.
You love people
that you think that social media should.
Model?
I do. I think she's a great role model. I think this is someone who's legally trained, culturally adept. She has media savvy. She's funny. She's smart. What do you mean? Yes, I do think that she's a great role model.
I don't think her behavior in the clip I played is
Trump
good
a role model
type stuff.
Is Trump a role model?
I've never said that he is.
Is he? I'm asking you.
No, I don't think his
He is the president of the United
behavior
States.
Is the way I would want people to model their own behavior, but that his policies are superior to the policies of Joe Biden.
But the behavior that Trump exhibits is modeled by the entire MAGA base.
But this is a total misnomer because I frequently criticize Trump's behavior and the things he says about the media and his attacks on the media and how he treats other people is something I criticize constantly. So you're not really catching me in some hypocrisy here. I'm not like, rah, Trump, I love everything about him and everything he does. I tend to like his policies, particularly his foreign policy, better than the alternatives. But I think he would be a more effective president. I'd like him even more if he could restrain himself in some of the things he says, in some of the performances he does. But here's Democrats saying, no, let's do a performance like that, and then also have bad policies. That's like the worst of all worlds to me.
Well, I also think you need to have a little bit of a moral compass, which is where I lead from, which is what I always tell you about President Trump. And so if we're going to let that go for President Trump, then I'm going to be equally nuanced in the conversation and let that go for Democrats also. I would prefer if nobody was doing this. I would prefer if we could have decorum back in our institutions like we used to.
We'll see if that makes an effective political message for the Democrats. Let decorum go and just let our freak flag fly, baby.
It works for Republicans, so.
I don't know if it'll work for Democrats. Next up, Trump is increasingly growing frustrated with Russian President Vladimir Putin. His latest play to end the war in Ukraine, how the Russians are reacting, is coming up next. Stick around.